stoked.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's dope, though. What were you doing before you were like freelance illustrator? Was it anything that was more like 9 to 5, more corporate?
Yes, of course. My corporate era. I worked in social media
Okay.
marketing, and I worked at Tumblr, and then I worked at Pop Sugar doing social media. I ran Tumblr's Instagram account, which is funny, but
Dang.
also, of course, did stuff within the like Tumblr ecosystem, within the world that we had there. And then at Pop Sugar, I also managed the Instagram, and I had a team there. Because we had a lot of Instagram accounts and we posted a lot. So that kind of stuff. I honestly, looking back, I can appreciate my corporate era. I think it taught me a lot of stuff. But I was excited to get out because I could notice just like the corporate ladder sucking me in, you know, like at some point, like, you can't say no to a promotion and they're going to put people under you and you're going to have to manage people now. And like, did you even ever want to do that? I don't know. And corporate politics, like being not American white, it's like corporate politics are so weird and you have to like play this game and it gets crazy. Like the craziest people get to the top and it's crazy. It's a crazy game. And so I'm glad I left, but like I do have an appreciation for the time I put in. I feel like it taught me a lot about like emailing and negotiating and like how to give corporate feedback in a nice way, and stuff like that. But I do prefer freelancing when it's busy, which I think we can all I think it's a universal truth at this point that creatives are not busy this year. And now I'm looking a little bit fondly at my corporate era, but you know.
Yeah, it's a toss-up.
It's a game. Yeah, it's a balance. It's
pros and cons. I definitely feel everything you said about corporate world. It's a tough place to be. Like, I went to school to be an engineer, and I was like, okay, I'll get out. I'll solve hard problems. I'll give it the thing. And then they're like, no, you're going to manage people who don't want to be managed. And I'm like, that does not sound
And that's
fun.
The only way to make more money. Yeah. And it's like, oh...
That sounds terrible.
The game. This is the whole thing. Like, I just have to keep going up.
Yep. And then being a person of color, you're in there and you're like, person of color representative, I have questions for you. Would you like to answer those questions? And I'm like, no, I would not like to talk about the politics of brown people in the police. I don't want to do that today.
Yes, that's so odd. I'm so sorry they did that to you. I feel like for me, because I benefit a lot from being like super white passing. Yeah. Like I am white, right? Like in Chile, I'm white. And here I'm also white. But I'm not like Connecticut white. I'm not like generationally, culturally white. I don't know how to better explain that. And so sometimes I would get the opposite problem where they're like, just forget that I am anything but white. And this is a good problem, right? This is what's taking me far. Like I have to admit, like the fact that it's undetectable in some sense, unless like I say my name every time I enter a room, got me far, probably, you know? But at the same time, when I would be in these meetings about like Latin American Heritage Month or like selecting, you know, people to feature and we want to make sure it's diverse and all this stuff, sometimes it would be funny because like people just forget that I'm there and I'd have to be like, sorry, what, I have this concern. And it's kind of awkward, you know, but it's I guess a better experience in whatever twisted way that is. So yeah, that's my POV.
It's wild sometimes when we have to take those wins, and that's, if there's one thing that I would love to explain to people who don't look like us, it's just there's this constant like teeter-totter of wins and losses. Like you're like, okay, I'll take it over here, and then over here it's like, that's just kind of what comes with the territory. And it's like this world that like you just get thrown back and forth, almost like being in the ocean. You're just like thrown back and forth. And you're like,
and you have to just ride it out because there's no other option. And I feel like I benefit a ton from being what I call extremely marketably Latina, like unoffensively Latina, right? It's like, oh, white man hiring me for a campaign is like, oh, this is great, like just enough, you know. Which great for me. Unfortunate, you know, unfortunate reality, but I have to I like to say like I'm aware of it.
For sure.
And it's all I got, right? Like I can't, you know, this is what I'm working with.
For sure.
But yeah, it's always like it's a tricky one, and I'm always like my lived experience is so different from the lived experience of someone who's darker than me or more like indigenous than me. And yeah, I just like I'm totally aware of it, but at the same time, like I'm still not getting half of the opportunities that like true white Americans are getting, you know?
It's tough.
So
it's tough. Yeah. But I mean, and that's something that I've had to like kind of deal with, of course, your whole life. But is you eventually, I feel like I've eventually come to terms with it, and I'm proud of who I am, and everywhere I show up, I'm black because there's nothing. I could watch anime and be black. I could play video games and be black. I could be a freelancer and be black. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do about that. It's a game that I can't control. So why not show up and be proud and take the opportunities that I can get and have these conversations, because these conversations are important. Feel a little less lonely in the world.
100%. And I feel you. I'm like on a different end of the spectrum, but like nonetheless, I feel like anyone who is a minority in the US is faced with these like questions and predicaments and just like playing within like a unfavorable system.
For sure. For sure. Unfavorable. I like that.
All of us at different degrees. Right? All of us at different degrees.
At the same time. And it's like.
At the same time and in different games, right? Because there's like a different game for everyone, right? So it's so messed up. But it's the truth, and we're just surviving.
Yeah, for sure.